Welcome to Tales from Shiers Hill. I'm your host Shadow, and with me tonight are my co-hosts Great769 and Big Wolfie. Is there any, you guys want to say hi?
Hi.
Hello.
In this series, we will be discussing true supernatural and unusual events from Shiers Hill and other parts of Nova Scotia, as well as the world over. We want to keep things local, though, for the most part, so to start off with, we will focus tonight's episode about Shiers Hill itself and the hauntings surrounding it, and how we came to Shiers Hill. So, we are what the locals call come from a ways. We were born and raised elsewhere and ended up here. When we were house hunting in 2006, we visited all over Nova Scotia, but it was here in this little rural community, and this property in particular, that we felt a strong energetic draw. When we first came to view the property, on our own before contacting the real estate agent, Great769 went around the house to look at the structure, but I was drawn down a path into the woods to the area that would later become the pet cemetery. There is an energy in that spot that is very strong. After we purchased the property, but before we moved in, I was sitting on a folding lawn chair in the living room area eating lunch and announced to Great769 that somebody had died in the house of a heart attack. I felt chest pains that I knew were not my own. Just to give a little bit of background information, I've been intuitive since early childhood and have experienced quite a few unusual things over the years. Okay, so remember one night we had just finished watching TV and turned it off, and we heard an extremely loud bang on the floor in front of us, as if someone had slammed something heavy like a large bag of cement on the floor?
Yeah, I remember that.
Now, we both heard it, and Great769, you went down to the basement below to investigate. And what did you find?
Nothing.
Nothing. There was nothing amiss. Nothing had fallen anywhere in the house. Now, what is odd about this is that we had learned later that yes, there was somebody who died in the house, the previous owner, but he had been found in the kitchen. He had fallen to the floor of a heart attack and had died. So, other weird things that happened in this property is we have heard music and a woman singing a cappella outside in the backyard numerous times over the years, as well as seeing and hearing non-human spirits in and around the house. Now, about the singing, we do have a local woman in the area who sometimes walks past our house who is known for her singing. But we hear the voice late at night or in the middle of the day when this woman is at work. And the most important thing about this is when she walks by, she walks along the main road, which is the front of the house, and we hear the singing in the back, in the woods behind the house. And it's also not English or French. We are not sure what language this woman is singing. And Big Wolfie, you have heard her singing as well when you were outside working.
Faintly.
So, like, you know that this is not our neighbor.
We've heard it at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. Like, we have woke up in bed saying, what is that noise? And it's this woman singing.
Yeah.
So it's like this area, the area between Shiers Hill and the beach hill up there, it has a reputation among the locals as being the most haunted area in the community. And people have made comments about seeing things around our property when they're driving through the area. I remember a fella told Great769, he told you there one night about how they were driving past our house really late at night and he seen like orb-like lights in the road.
Yeah.
And did he think anything weird about that?
Well, he thought it was just normal for
this area. It's like weird things happen here.
Yeah.
And my aunt, when she used to stay with us, she used to come a couple times a year for a week or 2 weeks at a time. It was her vacation. And she said at night she would sometimes be visited by apparitions. And she has actually identified a couple of the spirits that she has seen from old photographs of people who had been here previously. Yeah. And we're trying to find out more.
Well, she didn't identify specifically.
She said that they looked like the girls.
They looked similar to.
They looked similar to the girls. Now, it could have been the style, but she said that one of the faces of one of the women looked like who she had seen looking at her in the room at night.
And it's gotten to the point with me, I see something, and or hear something. Like today, I was over rummaging around in the shed, and I heard a voice, right? And it sounded like somebody was in a box, right?
They're trying to call out.
Yeah, and I came in and I mentioned it to you, and you went, "Well, no, I didn't hear nothing," and
I was outside.
and I just went, "Oh, okay." No, you were inside.
Was I?
Well, yeah, you were inside on the computer when I heard it, and I came in like a couple of minutes afterwards. But and you know when I
The
was
neighbor.
when I was pumping up the tire, and there was a guy standing beside me.
Yep.
Like I told you, like a couple days later, because it's
You didn't think about it.
Yeah, it's just normal.
And then I was outside getting something out of Big Wolfie's vehicle, and somebody was standing right beside me. And in my peripheral vision, it looked like somebody was right there, very solid,
Yeah.
wearing dark clothing. And I turned my head, and there wasn't anybody there. But when I turned my head back to exactly where it was, I didn't see anything in my peripheral vision anymore, which means it was not an optical illusion.
You see, like what I find about this whole thing is, if one person is experiencing things, you chalk it up to loon, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when three people, three different personalities,
Who live here full time.
yeah, and let's face it, our personalities are totally different. I'm not intuitive like you are, and I'm definitely not intuitive like you are. I mean, that night you jumped from the chair and you ran over and you went, "There's somebody standing right there," right?
Yeah,
Like,
Big Wolfie's very intuitive.
We were both like, "What?" You know, and it was like, I mean, when you have three people experiencing different things, I find that to be, well, there's something about this place, right?
Yeah.
There really is. The property, whatever it was, right? And
And it's not just our particular little slot of land, it's the whole area between the hills.
yeah,
Because there's one day that you were talking to our neighbor, and you said about a woman's voice talking.
oh yeah,
And then, like, his wife was still alive at the time, and she didn't hear it, and the dogs didn't hear it, and they have an extremely reactive dog. Like, if we walk the dog past his place, we're not making a sound, the dogs aren't making a sound, but his dog goes crazy.
Well, I heard
He
the
reacts
voice.
to everything.
I heard the voice, and I walked over to look down to the thing because I thought it might be one of the neighbors, and I'd like to talk to them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody there, so I walked down to the road and I looked, and there was nobody either way. And the amount of time that it took for that to happen, well, like, I would have seen somebody.
Yeah.
If they were going in either direction. So, going to coffee club the next morning, I thought to myself, well, I said, I'll give my neighbor a scare. He picked me up, and I said, yeah, yesterday I heard this woman's voice, and there was no woman. Right? I said to him, I said, I'm going to shake you up. And he goes, I heard this woman's voice, and I didn't see this woman. Is, it was about between 4:30 and 5.
Because he's usually easily creeped out
Yeah.
by ghost stories.
And
he
he
gets
goes-
really creeped out.
He goes, well, I'll creep you out. I heard it too. And he goes, the dog didn't hear it, and my wife didn't hear it. And he goes, I'm deaf. Well, I got goosebumps right now. And when he told me that, I just got goosebumps all through me. So here's two people. We live about 500 meters apart. We both hear this woman, and nobody else does. You didn't hear it because you were here.
I wasn't home
You
when
weren't
you
home?
heard it. No,
No.
I was at work.
Well, but the thing is that his dog didn't hear it. Our dog didn't hear it,
No.
right? And our dog barks when she hears strange stuff down on the road.
Yeah.
Because I have to say there was no reaction from the dog, I guess, because the dog was in the house, I was outside. But when you have something like that happen, you go, whoa, there's something really weird, right? But you know what the weirdest thing is? We've been here for a long time now.
Yep. Almost 14 years.
And we know a lot of people down here. And I'll ask people, no, nothing. And they change the subject.
It took us 13 years to find out the history of who lived here before.
That's right.
Because nobody would talk about it. They would talk about the last two people who lived here.
Yeah.
Because they weren't strange people. They were apparently people who were known in the area who just settled here.
Yeah.
So no one thought anything about them. And they were well-liked people. But to find out anything before them, it was like pulling teeth.
Well, Mr. M, like we found we found a rune in the woods. And I said to him, do you know anything about that rune up in the woods? He goes, oh yeah, that belonged to so-and-so. And I was in that place when I was a kid. It was tumbling down and all that.
Now, this is like way up in the clear cut where the old highway was, well off the main drag.
Yeah. And he knew all about that house.
Yeah.
And then
But the house had been abandoned for like 30 or 40 years before his birth.
Yeah.
And he knew who lived there.
And he had know who lived there. So we'd ask him about this place. No, don't know nothing.
And the person
and when we did find out some names, do you know so and so? Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, once you know the name of the person, they'll admit it.
They'll admit it.
But they won't talk about it.
But they don't talk about it.
Now the person who was here, who had purchased the property, the second owner, got it in the 1890s.
Yeah.
And they lived until the 1950s. Now, they weren't always here. Apparently, there's something happened that they went to live with one of their relatives. But they died in 1950. But you ask the local people about this person, and they either say that they've never heard of them, or they say yes, but they were a really strange egg. And they don't want to say anything about them.
And they won't say anything about them. And the thing is we've talked to people, like, I've heard stories dating back into the 1800s from people who were born in the 1920s and the 1930s. Yeah. These are passed down stories. Yet when we mentioned this place, nothing.
No.
Right? And I mean, it was nothing. Like, I mean, it was like, no, I don't know anything about that. There was somebody that lived there, but I don't know anything about it. Yeah. But boy, they can tell you chapter and verse. That the one example that that guy, when World War II broke out, he went to volunteer, and the recruiter said, "When were you born?" He said, 4 years after Aunt Bessie got her organ. And the recruiter thought for a second. He said, "When did Aunt Bessie get her organ?" He goes, 4 years before I was born. So they couldn't verify his age, because now that story has been handed down. I mean, World War II started 80 years ago. Yeah, it's 80 years this year. And the guy who told me the story, he told me all the names. I said Aunt Bessie. It wasn't Aunt Bessie, but he
knew everybody involved.
He knew everybody involved, right? Yet, asked him, he knew people that lived just down the road.
Yeah, he knew the neighbors to the people who lived here.
Yeah, but didn't know
in the early
thing
1900s.
About this place. Yeah. So there's something weird about this place.
And it was a while before that Mr. M would admit that there was anybody here at all, because even after we had found the old stone foundation here, and we said, "There's an old foundation here. Was there a house?" And he said, "Nope, no one ever lived there."
Yeah, it's like pulling teeth.
We actually had to have the actual name of the gentleman who lived here and that had that foundation.
I got thinking, well, maybe there was a murder here.
Yeah.
Or something.
Could be.
because like you know, nobody wants to talk about it because they don't want to scare us off. Well,
Yeah.
no, nobody's going to scare us off.
Because when we first moved
Right.
down to this area, it was well known for another murder, and people were pretty hush hush about that.
Yeah. Nobody talks
Until
about
we were
that.
here for a few years, and we're
Yeah.
like, well, we heard this, and what is this? And then they say, oh yeah, this happened, and blah 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 blah. And then they talk about it, but they won't talk about this place.
No.
I want to add that it feels like this place may be protecting us because it hasn't done anything bad to us.
No,
No,
the spirits
that's
that are
right.
here.
It knows that we're taking care of the place.
Yeah.
Right? And I think people like Mr. M may be ignorant, spiritually ignorant, and may be afraid of the unknown because he's not spiritually.
Yeah, well,
wrong enough. You know what I mean?
I agree with you. And there's also the fear factor. I think that some of these older people,
They're scared.
they look at they fear this stuff because they don't understand. They haven't taken the time to understand it. How I feel about this property is like I'm home.
And it was like that since the first day that we pulled in the driveway just to look at it.
Yeah, there was like a comfort to it, right? And is it the greatest place in the world?
No.
Right? But I'll tell you, like, you know, I told Buddy at Coffee Club, I said, I've been here. I said, I have no desire to go back to my former life and the way I lived and how I lived. And it's hard. Like, you know, we cut firewood and, it's very hard down here. And the winters are tough.
You have to live up the land to take care of yourself.
Yeah, but we live quite naturally, right? But it's an interesting place, and I think people are going to really enjoy listening to some of the stuff as we go into detail about it.
Yeah. Because we're going to be talking about different topics. Like we've had experiences with the Pugladmuj here, which is little people. That's what one of the names the Mi'kmaq called them. Other Native American groups have different wordings for them.
And there's also the that thing I saw in the woods that night.
That weird rip in time space or whatever
Yeah.
it was. We have UFO stories about the area. We have stories about the Grim Reaper,
Yeah.
or what we are going to call the Grim Reaper, for lack of a better term, because this is an entity that was seen around the time that people had died, and that's the only words that I can use to describe what I saw as a Grim Reaper.
Yeah.
We can elaborate on that.
Yeah, we're going to elaborate on that. And also, like, some of the other things that we're going to talk about is, like, there's some historical things that
Can't be explained.
that cannot be explained,
Yeah.
right? There are things that cannot be explained. And you know, I grew up in Halifax in the North End, about 1,000 meters from where the Halifax explosion happened.
Yeah.
And my father is 800 meters from the Halifax explosion when it blew, right? And the North End of Halifax is, I mean, 2,000 people died in an instant there.
Yeah.
And there's the Miley incident from the West Ray mine,
Yeah.
right? I'll talk about that one too. That's pretty
That was
interesting.
your neighbor who died in Westray.
Yeah, right. And that was really strange.
I'd like to hear more on that one.
Yeah. Well, we're going to save it on. We'll have a show on it.
Yeah.
But also too, there's I've had experiences personally that really tested my belief system.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I mean, you know, you know, I grew up. I'm not a religious man, but I grew up basically saying, yeah, I'm a basic atheist. But I got to tell you, I've had some experiences that go, well, wait a minute, pal. You might be wrong here, right? Because there is something, that challenges, and
Well, you have proof.
yeah,
If it's in front of your face,
yeah,
right? You can't
right.
deny it.
And I don't know if it's the biblical sense or not. I don't know, but I have had experiences that says, you think you know what you're talking about. Well, you don't know what you're talking about, because guess what?
And then here's a little tidbit of information to make you think.
Yeah, to make you think. And that was even before we moved here.
Yeah.
That was even before I knew you.
Yeah. But since you knew me, things have just escalated for you.
After the cat ceremoniously peed on the TV and killed it.
Yeah.
We have no media going.
Other than what we choose to watch on YouTube.
Yeah, we watch stuff on YouTube or whatever. But basically, we have no media going.
It's quiet here.
It is very quiet. And, oh yeah, we're not in the cell phone. We have no cell phone service here. Right? Well, yeah, you do if you go stand on one foot in the forest at a particular angle. You can get 2 bars.
But even then, it's iffy because it depends on how the wind is blowing that particular moment of the day.
Yeah, So we're not being penetrated by the electromagnetic micro whatever this garbage is that we're supposedly being bombarded by. So, I personally think that has something to do with. Do you think that we're maybe we are experiencing things? Where I grew up in the city, I mean, you have this. It's got this dome of electromagnetic.
All the
There's
power
TVs
lines
going
and televisions, Wi-Fi boosters.
Where I lived, if I went out on the step at 2 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday night, I could hear tires from the various roads going. This is going all the time. The only time you really couldn't hear anything, and it was totally quiet in the city, was like 5 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday,
or if the power's off,
or if the power
blackout.
And the power's off.
Other than hearing the screams of everybody in the neighborhood when it first goes off.
Yeah,
that was shocking to me when I first moved in there. And our first power outage, I was sitting on the steps, and all of a sudden, all through the north end, you could hear people screaming.
Right? Like, I mean, if the power ever goes off for 3 weeks, people are going to die. But that's a whole different thing. But but down here, it's quiet. If you step out the back door right now and you listen, what you will hear is wind. You'll hear like a bird, maybe, right? And of course, depending on the year, sometimes you'll hear coyote.
Yeah.
Peepers.
Right? Peepers. Well, the peepers aren't out yet.
Peepers.
Yeah. But that's what you hear. Sometimes you'll hear the ocean banging, depending on how bad the storm is. I think that's got a lot to do with it, because we're tuned to something different, right? So, that's something I find interesting about living in a place like this. It's hilarious.
You'll hear the odd crow once in a while as well.
Yeah, that is an odd crow.
She is a very odd crow.
But I enjoy the fact that I can hear, and I'm hearing more than just noise.
Yep.
Right.
You're hearing what has slipped between the cracks, pretty much.
Yeah, like you talk to people today, like you go into anybody's house, anywhere, almost any time of day, the TV's on.
Yep.
And it's blocking out everything. It does block out stuff. So you don't hear it. I mean, some of these are a little subtle. It's very subtle, right?
Yeah.
And another thing that I find fascinating too is dreams.
Yeah. We are going to have an episode about dreams.
Yeah, I that's something that I find interesting, and I think we should discuss that.
Actually, I don't even think I had a nightmare since I moved in here.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Other than your mother.
Yeah.
That's a different topic
That's
as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I don't have any. Well, I only had a couple of episodes of PTSD, didn't I?
Yeah. But that was when we first moved down here.
Yeah. But I don't have those dreams anymore, right? That I had. So that's really good. It's been a very, very long time since I've had. Now, having said that, I've had zombie dreams, right? After, how many audiobooks did I listen to? Zombie audiobooks?
Oh my.
I don't know.
30, 40 different audiobooks
So
about zombie apocalypse.
I had a few.
Every audiobook on YouTube that is to do about zombie apocalypse or short tales that people have written about zombie apocalypse, every movie, every short film, every short sketch.
That would be a great podcast to talk about zombies. Everybody loves zombies.
Oh, yeah.
Every person who has a story about zombies that have posted to YouTube, this fella has listened to it.
Yeah.
The good, the bad, the horrible.
And you know the bad thing about zombie nightmares? The rifles don't work, or the ammunition doesn't work,
and you can't run,
and you can't. There's nowhere to run, right? But no, we'll definitely do a zombie a zombie one. I think that'd be great.
How to survive the zombie apocalypse.
How to survive the zombie apocalypse, which is not too bad in the wintertime.
No.
They'll freeze up, and then you just hit them in the head with a hammer. I've already thought this out.
Yeah, after I told you about, we were watching one of the zombie movies, and I said, nobody ever thinks about decomposition in these things. I was really technical, and you look at me and says, why do you have to ruin everything?
Yeah.
But anyway, I think this is going to be a very interesting series. We're going to cover a lot of different paranormal, spooky topics. We're going to try to get some of the local ghost stories in. I've been interviewing a lot of the older people in the area, trying to get them to talk about spooky tales, and we're going to see if we can incorporate some of the best tales into this little show.
We may also have an EVP session as well.
Yeah, EVP sessions and seances and all sorts of different paranormal investigations of the Shiers Hill area. Different explorations of the old abandoned homesteads that are not even homesteads anymore. We might go in and do some EVPs there.
And we, of course, will have animal tales.
Yes, we're going to have stories about funny things with animals, as well as we're going to do a show about the continuance of the non-human soul and our theories, and not just theory, but proof that our animal companions do go on to an afterlife after they pass. And these will all be based on all of our experiences on that topic. So I hope you guys enjoyed our first episode, and stay tuned for the next one. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye now.